How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Many Interpretations of, where we are taking a look at our very first aquatic reptile, that being the Mosasaurus, as well as the Tylosaurus. So when I was doing research for this video, I kind of noticed that a lot of these media depictions kind of really make it unclear of what kind of mosasaur they are representing. A lot of times it's simply just called a mosasaur. That's it. So that could mean Mosasaurus, or it could mean something like a Tylosaurus. And I've noticed that a lot of these designs are very reminiscent of a Tylosaurus, but they were simply named a Mosasaurus or something like that. So that got me thinking, would we want to combine these two into their same video because their histories are kind of mixed up anywho? So I put out a poll asking if that's something you guys would like to do, and overwhelmingly, you all said yes, you would like for that to happen. So this video will be divided into two sections. The first will be on Mosasaurus, the genus Mosasaurus, and the second section will be dedicated to the genus of Tylosaurus. I will admit that I am kind of confused with a lot of these depictions because, of course, Tylosaurus and Mosasaurus both share a very similar appearance. Tylosaurus, I think, has the thinner skull and that is a little bit longer than Mosasaurus, but sometimes it's hard to tell with some of these designs. So if I mistakenly call a Tylosaurus a Mosasaurus, or vice versa, then be sure to let me know in the comments and let everybody else know in the comments. But let's get right into this. The first section will be about Mosasaurus. First, we'll be looking where it kind of all began, all the way back in the 1850s with the Crystal Palace statues. These are incredibly iconic for paleo depictions. This is one of the places where the ball kind of started to get rolling because this is one of the first places that the general public can actually view these long extinct animals. And one of the animals that they portrayed was Mosasaurus. Very, very, very different to how we view Mosasaurus today. So it's got a lot more blunt skull. It's pretty submerged in the water. And it's mainly kind of being depicted as a type of just amphibious reptile, but like not necessarily fully aquatic like how we know that Mosasaurus is today. Of course, the reasoning for this is because Mosasaurus didn't really have a lot of fossil material at the time. Something like ichthyosaurs were a lot more well known, and that's why they were portrayed a lot more frequently. In fact, this is kind of a rarity, portraying Mosasaurus like this. But it is very much for its time, and it's very cool. It does kind of lean into the whole lizard thing, which makes sense because we've practically always known that mosasaurs shared a very close relation to modern day lizards and snakes. I've actually belonged to the same order, that being of Squamata. In fact, mosasaurs are actually giant lizards themselves, a type of marine lizard. This makes mosasaurs the largest lizards to ever not walk the earth, but swim the oceans. To ever exist, basically. The largest lizards to ever exist. They are also not dinosaurs. Got to start off correctly here. So that's a fun and historical start to our list. Next up, I figured I'd include this one. We have Disney's Dinosaur. Apparently, Mosasaurus was supposed to make an appearance in Disney's Dinosaur, but was ultimately scrapped. They did have a design for it, and there's even a turntable that you can find on YouTube right here. And this looks pretty good. I mean, the skeletal structure matches up pretty well to how we know Mosasaurus. Only thing is, and we'll see this a lot, is that tail. Eventually, with further analysis of Mosasaurus, we found that it didn't really have a crocodile-like tail, like it's how it's kind of portrayed right here. Rather, they had a tail fluke that kind of pointed downwards. It was basically like a reverse shark tail, essentially. So we will be seeing a lot of portrayals that look a lot like this, but still very cool. And keep in mind, this could very well be Tylosaurus. It's simply just listed as Mosasaur. That's where it kind of gets confusing. Next up is Primeval, with an incredibly monsterized version of this animal, kind of leaning more so into crocodiles and alligators, with a back covered in osteoderms. The skull kind of looks like a mosasaur skull, but at the same time, not too much. It's incredibly stylized. What I like that I think is kind of interesting are those crests that they gave it situated right before the eyes. That's something that's certainly different that I don't think we'll be seeing too much more of. But yeah, I think that the CGI is fantastic, and it's a fun design for the show that it's in. It's pretty far removed from the actual Mosasaurus, the one that our current depictions of Mosasaurus, but still very cool. Next up is Dinosaur Train. This is actually pretty dang accurate. The whole shape looks pretty good. It is missing that bottom tail fluke. I don't know. I'm not too sure exactly when we found out about this tail fluke. So there's a good chance that this was created before we found out about that, so I'm not really going to lean too much into it. The colors are very vibrant on these guys. Their skulls look really cool, and they're portrayed with lips. Given their relation to modern-day monitor lizards and snakes, it is likely that they would have oral tissue. It's also likely that they would have a forked, flicking tongue. So that's fun. And then we have Animal Armageddon. Once again, this could possibly be a Tylosaurus. It's simply just Mosasaur. But either way, it's incredibly shrink-wrapped, and it's kind of got a little bit of an underbite going on, which is interesting. And the colors are pretty bland, and you know the CGI in the show isn't. I wouldn't necessarily call it the greatest, but yeah, that is certainly a design. Okay, I had no idea about this one, but in Dinotopia, the miniseries, these guys are actually mosasaurs. I did not know that. That is very interesting. They're much more like, almost kind of like Pseudotsuchians in a way, or crocodilians, modern day crocodilians. They're covered in osteoderms, and they're completely terrestrial by the looks of it, or maybe not completely terrestrial. It's been forever since I've seen the show. I think that they do go into the water every once in a while, which kind of holds true to that mosasaur type thing. But what's kind of cool is that this kind of harkens back to the original Crystal Palace mosasaur that was portrayed there. I don't know if it was meant to be a reference to that. If so, that's very cool. But regardless, it's a very interesting portrayal of the animal. I do have Jurassic World Biology to thank for this one, because I had no idea about this one. So go and check out his channel, by the way. A lot of really cool Prehistoric Kingdom and Jurassic World Evolution content. Then we have C-Rex. This is all kind of focused on marine reptiles and how they lived. This looks very cool. Like, it has smooth skin, like how you'll typically see with monitor lizards and snakes of today. The flippers look really cool. It's missing that fluke. Again, this could be before we knew about that. If I'm wrong, if we did know about this tail fluke before these portrayals, be sure to let me know, because I would very much like to know. But the skull looks really good, and the rest of the body looks really good. So it's a very good portrayal. It also, this is a good place to bring it up, it does also have some counter shading. Counter shading is very common under the sea. It's most famous in water with sharks. Sharks will typically have like a white underbelly with a type of dark black. And this is perfect for camouflage, because if you look at a shark from down below, looking at it when it's above you, it'll kind of blend in with the sunlight, and then if you look at it from down below, it'll blend in with the darkness of the ocean. So it's really good camouflage, so it is incredibly likely that mosasaurs and other marine reptiles really would have that. So if any of these guys do have something like that, then that is a correct thing. Now we're on to Jurassic World with its absolutely massive mosasaur. So the largest species of Mosasaurus is known as M. hoffmanni, and it was huge. It was absolutely massive of an animal. Would have been incredibly terrifying to come across in the real world. But it's likely that it would only reach a length of around 43 feet, which is absolutely dwarfed by the Jurassic World Mosasaur. And in fact, the Jurassic World Mosasaur only gets bigger with each film. I think it's in the ballpark of around 250 feet, or maybe less, maybe more, something like that. Either way, it gets to be an absolutely insane size. The design is cool, though. It does keep the general shape of a mosasaur pretty good. Like, the skull looks fantastic, and the rest of the body looks really good. It just has osteoderms on the back, something that I'm not a big fan of. I don't like just throwing osteoderms on every single carnivorous animal just to make it look scarier. But the colors are really cool. It has a little bit of counter shading. It's not nearly as abrupt as the previous interpretation. And it is missing the tail fluke. It just has kind of like a crocodile tail going on. But it does have things like the pterygoid teeth. This is a good place to bring that up. The pterygoid teeth, those are those two rows of teeth that are on the roof of the animal's mouth, like towards the throat. That kind of helps it get the food into its throat, of course. Very similar to snakes and other such animals. And in true Dino Guy fashion, we're going to stick to the Jurassic franchise for Mosasaurus and go into some of the video games that the Jurassic franchise had for this guy, starting off with Jurassic Park 3, Park Builder. This one is absolutely covered in spikes, but the whole shape and the skull shape, the rest of the shape, and the colors look pretty fun too. Then in Jurassic Park Builder, look at this little heartbreaker. I like him. He's a fun little dude. I'm never going to complain with the Jurassic Park Builder designs. unless one day I do, in which case I was wrong with that statement, but I like this guy. And then in Jurassic World, the game, the initial design is very similar to the movie design, which makes sense. But of course, once you get to level these guys up to 31 and 40, it gets more of like a deep blue stripes with the lighter blues and mixed in with all that, making coolness. I don't know what I'm saying. And kind of like a dorsal fin on its back, very reminiscent of a shark. So that's interesting. You know, just a cool design flair. Makes it very different from its level 1 counterpart. There's also the Mosasaurus Gen 2, which is actually a little bit more reminiscent to the real world Mosasaurus. It's got colors that are looking like this. And it has more of a smooth skin texture. It just has spikes going down the middle of its back, starting from its head. It's pretty good, though. I like it. And then in Lego Jurassic World, this guy in Lego form is absolutely hilarious to me, and it's mainly because of how separated that head is from the rest of the body. I don't know why that's funny to me. It is based off of the Jurassic World Mosasaurus, of course, because Lego Jurassic World, you know, how long did it take you to figure that out? But it looks cool. I think it's a very fun addition, and I think it's cool that you still get to play it. That is the biggest cool thing in that game, is the fact that you get to play as the prehistoric creatures. I will never not love that. And then from there, we will move on to Prehistoric Planet, which has actually a few different types of mosasaurs. There's, of course, Mosasaurus hoffmanni that has a great design. Everything looks fantastic, and when it opens its mouth, you can even see the forked tongue. They would probably flick out, and we get that confirmed later with the smaller mosasaur that I can't remember the name of, and the globidens that is also using its forked tongue. These designs are absolutely incredible. They have the fluked tail, they have a streamlined body, counter shading, and I really like this mosasaur that's kind of just hanging out on the shallower waters, has more red coloration. They're just really cool. I love Prehistoric Planet designs, and you can very much tell that this is a guy that is a giant lizard, so huge props for the design of this one. And then in Amazing Dino World, I like these guys because their heads really do remind me of monitor lizard heads. I think they killed it in that aspect. And it's interesting to see a kind of what was it called? A proto-mosasaur. What was it called? Hold on a second. Yeah, the proto-mosasaurus. That, you know, these monitor lizards that eventually went to the ocean. That's true. You know, they would have come from monitor lizards that were once on the land. I don't think, per my knowledge, there's no such thing as a proto-mosasaurus. But I think that was just a way for them to convey that. But its design is pretty good. It has the tail fluke, it has the counter shading, and the colors, the rest of the colors I think are very fun. The head is also, it's a little bit more blunt, like a little bit more stubby, I guess. But all around, I think they did a great job. Then in the documentary that will be coming out this year, T-Rex, we see one that's washed on the shore from the shallow inland sea, which is about to be eaten by a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Very good design from what we could see. It's unfortunate that it has passed on, but I think it looks really good. It's just, I don't think there's really that much of a prominence in the counter shading. It is present. You can see it on its chin, but all around, I think it looks really good. The texturing looks fantastic, and the quality of the CGI, I think, looks great. Very excited to see this documentary. Now we'll move on to some video games with Ark, Survival Evolved. The whole shape looks really good. Some of these colors you can give it look great. It's missing the tail fluke and it has some spikes going down the middle. It also has some really crocodile-like teeth going on. Very jagged, I guess. Almost interlocking, but I don't think they're quite doing that. All around, though, I think it looks really good. It's also massive, which makes sense. But yeah, no, I like it. And in Saurian, no complaints at all. It looks incredible. The head looks great. It moves into the streamlined body. It has the tail fluke. The flippers look really good. I forgot to bring this up, but the way that mosasaurs would swim is they would kind of propel with their tail, kind of moving like that, and then they'd use their flippers that were on the sides of their body to kind of steer. Figured I'd bring that up. I don't know. But no, this design's fantastic. The counter shading looks really good. And right here with this model, you can see the forked flicking tongue. So always love that. And I just wish we got to see more of this game. It's unfortunate that it went the way that it did. There is a mod in Path of Titans that has Mosasaurus, and I played it a bit, and I've had a lot of fun with it.
I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I've got my lungs and that's a start, and I've got...
I think it's really high quality. I think that the design is great. The model, the overall texturing on the model is great. The sounds are really great too. I know I'm saying great a lot, but I do think that this mod is really great. Dino Crisis has a very cool looking mosasaurus. Look at this. That, like, those colors are just really, really awesome, and the head is really gnarly. It's extremely stylized, and I think that it fits the game very well. But it's mainly the colors that I'm just a huge fan of. Like, if I saw more colors like that with Mosasaurus, I would be a pretty happy camper. I think that's very cool. And of course, to wrap up the Mosasaurus portion, we will look at fossils and archaeology from Minecraft. I have to mention it every time. I used to watch Poet Plays and Magnius, and I loved the original design, where it's a lot more crocodile-like in appearance with this massive red eye and these flippers that are kind of separated from the rest of its body. Very, very, just inaccurate, but it just feels very Minecraft, and I love it. Nostalgia, rose-tinted glasses, all that good stuff. I loved it. But the mod team is working on the Fossils and Archaeology Revival mod, which takes all of the previous ones and they update them to be a lot more scientifically accurate. And this does, of course, look incredible. The amount of work that they're putting into something like that is just something that I appreciate. And I do love them just as much as I love the original one. But I'm just way more nostalgic for the original. I say that every time, but it's true. I think that that's like the second time that they've redesigned the Mosasaurus, because if I remember correctly from my days of watching Poet Plays, its design did change from this greenish color to more so a kind of like bluish with white counter shading going on, still with the red eye, but a little bit more accurate to our understanding of the animal. So they were constantly working on these designs, and I think that's cool. Then we will move on to Tylosaurus, another massive marine lizard. It is still a mosasaurus, just a different genus of mosasaur known as Tylosaurus. Gets a little bit confusing with all that good stuff, but it's just a different animal. Now, we'll start off with Fantasia. Now, this is the one that really kind of got me thinking, because when I was doing the research for the Mosasaurus video and I was looking into things that I can include on the list, I remembered that there was a mosasaur in Fantasia. And when I looked it up, I was thinking that looked extremely similar to most Tylosaurus depictions with its thinner snout. Of course, I didn't know the intentions of the filmmakers that worked on this short, and I was looking at a few different places. On the Disney Wiki, it's listed as a Tylosaur, but I've heard some folks call it a Mosasaurus. So that's where it got confusing for me. I'm including it on the Tylosaur one because I think it fits Tylosaurus a lot better, essentially. But we will move on from that rambling and kind of just look at the actual design. So it jumps out of the water and grabs an unfortunate pterosaur. Very cool indeed. Mosasaurs probably would eat pterosaurs. That's a fun thing. Mosasaurs would probably eat anything they can get their jaws on. They were likely the top predators in their given environment. That includes like turtles, ammonites, huge fish, sharks, other mosasaurs. Jurassic World said that, and it's true. And even dinosaurs, if they ever got the chance. If there was an unfortunate dinosaur that was just kind of swimming around for some reason, probably eat that too. So this is a fun depiction. It has a lot of spikes going down its back, and it looks great, mainly in the context that this is an outdated look at these animals, and that's what all of Fantasia is. It's just very cool to see an animal like that in something like Fantasia. Then in the dinosaurs, in 1992, we have one that's eating some ammonites. I had no idea if this was meant to be Mosasaurus or Tylosaurus, so I'm including it on the Tylosaurus section. I hope I'm correct, because it just seems like its skull is a little bit more thin than something like Mosasaurus hoffmanni. It looks great though. It is a bit thin, but everything practically matches up with this fella, so no complaints. Then in sea monsters, we have this guy right here that is listed as a Tylosaurus. Looks pretty good. I think the colors are different, and I like the way that they look. And the whole skeletal shape, I think, matches up very well, especially with that skull, which is a little bit more thin, again, compared to Mosasaurus, so fantastic. In Monsters Resurrected, it looks really cool. The darker colors that are a lot more closer to black with the whites. The head shape looks really great. The tail looks pretty good. It's missing that fluke, the reverse shark tail. But no, everything looks great. It's kind of got like orca colors going on, which is always really cool to see. So it's another good one. And then in Dinosaur Revolution, they gave it more so like a rough texture in its skin. The rest of the skeleton looks pretty good. Just that tail again, but everything looks great. I don't have too much to say because for the most part, I think that most of these designs are capturing it pretty well. Same could probably be said for Speckles the Tarbosaurus. For the most part, it looks pretty good. It's a bit thin, especially with that tail. It's very kind of just thin, I guess. The colors are really cool though, and it has some counter shading. No forked tongue though, unfortunately. It's kind of sad, but it looks good. Aquaman. You know, Aquaman was a fun movie. The 2018 one, not the new one. This one is a Tylosaur that managed to survive the extinction of, the KPG extinction. It looks really cool. The CGI is incredible, and it's very cool to see it kind of decked out with these different pieces of armor and whatnot, and seeing it kind of swim into battle. Very fun depiction of the animal. It's a great way to use something like that, because dinosaurs and other prehistoric animals, because they're not dinosaurs, by the way. I should probably film another clip to put at the beginning of the video to make sure that we're on the same foot, because these guys are not dinosaurs. They are marine reptiles. But to reiterate, I think it looks great. Then we'll go into the Tylosaurus section of the Jurassic franchise stuff, starting off with Jurassic Park the game. This guy right here is known as Mosasaur in the game, but apparently it's a Tylosaurus. Its snout is not nearly as elongated, and it has a very bulky body, but it looks really cool. I especially like the colors as per usual, and its overall build is really fun, and it acts as a really cool antagonist for the game. It also does have the pterygoid teeth, which is always really good to see. Can you tell that I sometimes run out of things to say in these videos? But look at it in Jurassic Park Builder. Isn't that just the darndest thing you've ever seen? I like him. He's definitely the best one on this list. Obviously, that's no competition. That one's the best. It looks really good in Jurassic World, the game, though. I mean, for the most part, I think those front fins might be a bit too big. I could be wrong. He's got a little bit of a streamlined body. I like how small his head is compared to the rest of the body. But again, as you level him up, you get different features on him, and you get this one that's really spiky, kind of like a mohawk going on. It's a fun one. And then in Jurassic World Evolution 2, the body looks pretty good. I'm not a fan of these kind of interlocking teeth going on, but it does have the proper tail fluke, and everything else looks good. Of course, you can give it different colors in the game, and those different colors really do help it kind of pop. In the Turok series, there is this massive son of a gun. Like, he's absolutely huge. He definitely doesn't have the thin snout that Tylosaurus did have. It's a lot more thick and just more blunt. Not to mention, this guy is basically a kaiju, alright? But it's cool. It's really cool. The colors are really cool, and there's not too much I can say other than the fact that it's huge. Then in Prehistoric Monsters Revealed, I'm not too sure if this was meant to be Mosasaurus or Tylosaurus. I think it's Tylosaurus, so I hope I'm correct. Anyway, very skinny, very shrink-wrapped, but they are pretty streamlined. I think that they look really good. I think they capture the animal pretty well. Kind of showcases some mosasaur bites. I don't know if this was meant to be like a Tylosaurus attacking a Mosasaurus, because per my knowledge, I think we do have fossil evidence of a Tylosaurus biting a Mosasaurus. So if that's what they're representing, then it looks cool, even though the designs kind of look the same. So I'm not too sure. And of course, the amazing series done by Dead Sound, Dinosauria, features a Tylosaurus. Really, really good design. Counter shading, the upside down tail shark thing, the darker body, the darker top of the body, and I really like on the snout how it kind of has some striping going on. I think that's really cool. I do think that he nailed this design, and it's probably one of my favorites in the entire series. I think it looks so good. And that, my friends, is where we wrap it up. This is probably not every single one. Keep that in mind. There's a multitude of different reasons why some of them don't get included on the list. I am one person. I cannot include everything. Because a lot of these are just coming from my basic knowledge and a quick Google search to make sure that my knowledge is correct. Sometimes I don't include some for a few different reasons. Sometimes I can't find ample images. Sometimes I simply don't know that it exists. Just, there's a multitude of different reasons. It's not done out of terrible intentions or anything like that. This video was a little bit more difficult for me to get out, and that's mainly because my schedule has been absolutely terrible right now. The job in which I currently work at has increased our hours from 10 hours a day to 12 hours, so I have even less time to get these videos done, unfortunately. So this video already is a day or two late, and I do apologize for that. I'm going to try to get everything back onto a better schedule. I don't know how much longer this whole 12-hour shift thing is going to last. Hopefully it won't be too long. So that I can get back onto a better schedule. Regardless, let me know what you thought of the video. Please like the video and subscribe if you like this type of content, because, you know, this type of content's awesome. You know, it's great. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and have an awesome day.